Okay.
Ashe, 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 ashe.
2 minutes. 2 minutes is a long time, isn't it? But it's way, way, way too short when you think of our ancestors. Okay. Ever since it started, we've identified with two colors, white and red. And we have the red symbolizes the blood of our ancestors, and the white, their spirit. And initially, we used to put red flowers and white flowers on the shores of the Atlantic Ocean for the transatlantic slave ancestors, and also we would put them on land for the Saharan ancestors. But since COVID, we have not been able to go back to our original location, which should have occurred this year, but because of the weather and also certain issues, we're still doing it virtually. So I will now proceed to that part of the program. So there we are. Red for their blood, white for their spirit. And this one is for the Atlantic Ocean. And again, red for the blood, white for the spirit. This one is on a tray of sand, symbolizing the transatlantic ancestors. So at this point, we're going to pour a libation to their memory, starting with, and when I raise my glass, I would ask that respectfully that when I pour, I would ask respectfully that we all say Ashe. Ashe meaning amen. Okay, so this for our transatlantic ancestors. I pour. Ashe,
Ashe.
Ashe.
for our Sahara Desert ancestors. I pour. Ashe,
Ashe.
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 for all of our other ancestors, starting with our grandparents and grandparents, and going way, way back to prehistory, our foundation. I pour. Ashe,
Ashe.
and for all those that are coming after us, we owe a responsibility to them to help them in the journey away from slavery and oppression. We've come a very, very long way. I think we'll all agree. But, and again, many would say, well, enough is enough, we're there. But most serious-minded people would say, no, 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 we have a long way to go. And it is our duty that we will get there. We will get there, perhaps not speaking personally, but our children, our children's children, we have to contribute to the progress that they will make until we get to the promised land. So for them, I pour. Ashe.
Ashe.
Okay, Uncle Sizwe was kneeling down, was down on one knee while he was doing this. Now he's going to attempt to get up.
Good luck.
We give thanks to the ancestors.
Okay. Okay. And next we have what we call the slogan of resolve. The slogan of resolve. Now, Ifo.
Yes, Uncle.
You have the slogan of resolve?
I believe so. Just a moment here.
The slogan of resolve, really, it's something that was inspired, I guess, by Ray Charles. And it goes, no more, no more, no more, no more. That's 4 times. No more, no more, no more, no more. And a pause. And slavery no more. And the idea that we should be vigilant about the impact of slavery on all of us people of African descent all over the world. As we speak, slavery still continues in parts of Africa. That's the manual chattel slavery, actual slavery, physical slavery still continues as we speak. But the mental aspects of slavery, the psychological impact, the mental aspects, which back on the plantation days did exist, intertwined with the physical aspects, those, many would say, are still with us today. So we think the slogan of resolve, it indicates an acceptance of where we are and what we should be mindful of. And so again, it goes, no more no more, no more. It's not something, it is not meant to be shouted. It is not meant for demonstration to onlookers or to our neighbors. It's an issue of quieted ourselves as individuals and as groups to ensuring that we get there, and as a people, that we get there and we play our part, okay? So I would ask all of you, or let us all say it together, starting now. No more, no more, no more, no more. Slavery, no more.
No more.
Okay. Now we'll say it once more for those that are no longer with us. A reassurance to them that we're on the job. No more, no more, no more, no more. Slavery, no more.
No more.
And we'll say it once more for those that are coming after us. In a sense, they are our responsibility, in the sense that we have to play our part to make sure they get further in the journey to the promised land. So again, for them, we'll say it once more. No more.
No more. No more.
No
No
more.
more. No more.
Slavery.
No more.
No more.
Yeah. And this program, okay, and now we're going to tilt to a short discussion, which will take us to 1 p.m. our time. And in terms of the discussion, thank you, Ifo. In terms of the discussion, we had attempted to get, we made several attempts to get speakers, as has been the case in previous years. Usually, professors of history or what have you, and various universities to lead this year. Everybody was seemed to avoid it. And the topic that we had assigned was mental slavery. Definition, what it is. Diagnosis, what it looks like, how does it manifest itself, and cure. What do we have to do as a people to free ourselves from mental slavery? So that was the the topic that was posed to a number of, I would add that, to my knowledge, all of them very well employed in Eurocentric universities. But for some reason, everybody had an excuse and no one would touch it. So for the next half hour, we thought we would have a discussion, not so much on that particular topic, on the topic, but from a different perspective. So what we're going to be discussing for the next hour is simply the question, is our enslavement really over? Is our enslavement really over? If it is, then I think we really, really have to celebrate big time. And if it isn't, what can we do until victory is won? This is taken from one of the national anthems, the Black national anthems, James Weldon Johnson, at the turn of the century. They were much, much closer to the physical aspects of slavery than we are. And from his vantage point, he that wrote the words for the Black national anthem, he acknowledged how far we'd come at that point, but he urged us to march on until victory is won. So I don't know what he had in mind, what was his conceptualization of victory. But the question is, what's our conceptualization of victory? So that's, I think, maybe we can share our ideas on this for the next half hour or so before we tilt to the second half of the program. So the floor is open, and I will give you 2 seconds before I start calling names. I used to be a teacher, you know.
All right, I'll give some housekeeping things just to make things easier. For those of you who are on the computer or any other device, there's a reaction button. You can click on that and then you can put your hand up. I'll be paying attention to who puts hands up. That way I can get you in order if you want. If you're calling in on the phone, it is *9 to put your hand up and *9 to also put your hand down. And from the phone, it is *6 to mute or unmute yourself. So yes, this is a very important discussion. I see Dr. Lynn Jones has their hand up, so go ahead.
Hello, all my sisters and brothers. It's certainly, I'm really humbled to be once again be here to acknowledge and celebrate and this really momentous occasion. I was struck this week. We're suffering immensely with the wildfires that are happening right now. Particularly, I'm thinking of the Northwest Territories. And on the news just a little while ago, there was an African psychologist at our hospital in Halifax that was responding to the fact that many people are affected by this global change and the fires. But what was more important was the fact that we need to address the long-term effects of the fires and the mental health issues that go along with it. And immediately a little light bulb came off in my head. And I'm thinking, we're just experiencing these global changes. And we know right away the importance of the mental in this process. And it doesn't just end with the end of the fire. It goes on for years and years. And this is the area that we have to really look at. Otherwise, we're in deep trouble. So imagine, that's what my imagining was, of what we went through with the, for example, the transatlantic slave trade, and nobody really talking about our mental health and the mental slavery that we are still experiencing in this day and age. So it's really important that we use this as a theme this year. And I'm not surprised that people didn't come forward, because we haven't spent time talking about this part of our liberation. So in having said that, Brother Sizwe had said that what do we need to do now? Like what's the action plan moving forward? And I say one other quick little thing. I was with a brother from our Africville community who, for the first time, spoke in a public forum about what he was experiencing from having lived in Africville. And in the middle of his talk, tears started to flow, and he was shocked because he never expected it. And again, it's this whole concept of who, even in Africville, who has ever dealt with the mental slavery of what they've gone through. So I have all these pictures that are going through my head. I don't necessarily have the action plan that we're asking for, but one thing I do know is that if we don't address it, we shall be forever enslaved. And we can't possibly think that we are going to obtain freedom or our liberation from slavery. I'm thinking of what those concerns that we might have that would fall under the realm of reparations. And again, we often talk about the finances, the money, the what's owed us, but so little thought paid to the mental aspects. So I just throw that out as a picture. It's because it's a picture reverberating in my mind. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that. I just want to relate, because I don't see any, I don't want to, does anyone else have a comment? I'm sure someone else does.
Yeah, I have a comment.
Yeah.
I will be simply brief. One of our elders who wrote the book about Afrocentricity, the theory for social change, Dr. Molefi Asante, he has a presentation he did on YouTube. You can find it on my YouTube channel. And it's about decolonization. And he said that we do not have any African universities in Africa. We have lots of universities in Africa, but none of them are African universities. They're teaching European ideology. They're teaching us to fundamentally hate ourselves, to fundamentally disrespect ourselves. The universities and in the high schools, they're still teaching in Nigeria that a guy named Mungo Park discovered the river Niger. As if the Africans that were there when he arrived did not know that the river was there. But it's only when this white guy shows up that it becomes discovered. And they're teaching that today in Africa, right? They teach about Greece as the foundation of democracy and civilization, which is actually a lie. Because if you look at the actual Greek people who people are referring to, whether it be Aristotle and the rest of them, they all say that they were babies in compared to the Africans, because it was Africans that taught them these things. So I think that there's a need for us to really, really, as the famous quote, we need to emancipate ourselves from mental slavery, and it's only we that can free our minds. Another thing related to that is most Africans are not taught that we actually have writing systems, or that we're the ones who taught the Europeans how to write. So a lot of people are going around trying to find African history and saying, oh, we can't find it because it's all oral. But we have books. We have the university in Timbuktu, which was where everybody in the world was the foundation of knowledge for the world. That was in West Africa, in present-day Mali. So I think there's a really, really deep need for us to, one, know our true history and who we are. As they say in Ghana, SANKOFA, go back and bring it forward. And then also we need to lose this deep, deep disrespect that we have for ourselves, and also this deep, deep unearned respect and trust that we have for colonizers, whether they be colonizers from Europe, colonizers from the so-called Arab world, or the new colonizers from Asia. We need to really remember who we are so that we can move forward with strength. Give thanks. Thank you.
I just have a brief comment. I don't know how to put my hand up, and I hope I'm not jumping the queue.
No, you have perfect timing. Go ahead.
But I just want to read something, or just share something that a professor from the Portland State University, I think she's an assistant professor in Portland State. Her name is Professor Joy DeGruy. She wrote a paper called Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. And I'm just going to read what she said, and then I'm going to make a brief comment. She says that the symptoms of this syndrome would include lack of development of primary esteem, feelings of hopelessness and depression, a general self-destructive outlook, violence against self, property, and others, including the members of one's own group, literacy deprivation and distorted self-concept, hostility, or aversion for one's own identified cultural ethnic group. And I think unquote, I think the basis for her research was that we're consistently exposed to the horrors of our past, of our history. And I don't know how to reconcile what she's saying, because it's true. We see some of those things in our own experiences today, because in some cases slavery has not been eradicated. We're still in this malaise, but at the same time, we need to, as the brother just before me mentioned, that we need to just continue to discover who we are and address, and doing what we're doing today. We need to, recognize the people that were lost and that were abused and that suffered. And so I'm not sure how to reconcile that. And I'm in both camps, but I just thought I would mention that as a contribution to this discussion. That's it.
Thank you very much. Really, that was right on point. Right on point. I believe next we have Elder Glenroy and Sis Marsha next, after Elder Glenroy, and then George. Go ahead.
Yes, greetings, everyone. Thank you very much for those of you who have organized this, and congratulations. It is a necessity and part of our learning, I believe, and therefore it fits right into the issue about freeing ourselves mentally. But I think alongside that, I think we also need to change many of the narratives. It's not true that the Jewish community owns the term a Holocaust, but they have managed to give that impression. So I think it's also important to have our own narrative of the attack on our people. We are beginning in the UK to use for example, the word mangomizi and the mahafa. These are key Swahili words. Want to make sure it's fully understand that this is not some accidental event. This is not some product of misunderstanding, that this was a deliberate action against African people. Because, you know, I have heard Africans suggest that perhaps if it was the other way around, we would have done the same thing. I don't believe that is the case. I don't believe that will ever have been the case. And even if it was, we would not be in a continued situation of denial, refusal, concealment, etc., of the crime that we know has been committed. So I go back to where I've started. Many of the solution is in our own hand, our self-repair. When we hear people using terminology, not because they are being vicious or being unkind, but simply because they need to have other narrative offered to them. We cannot continue to call ourselves slave or call our ancestors slave. We were people going about our business, and to be raided, kidnapped, enforced transportation to other places, and enslaved. Thank you, Elder Sizwe, for reminding us of the journey. Because many people don't come to terms with that. They don't deal with that. People were thrown overboard on this journey. And not necessarily because they were ill. These are some of the misconceptions. Or that they had died in the journey. Yes, some died. Yes, some became ill. But the reality was that in so many cases, these barbaric people would not ensure that they have enough provision for the journey. And they ensured that the people who got thrown overboard was our ancestors. And so the Atlantic Ocean is littered with our ancestors. We need to remember that when we talk about it. And as Elder Sizwe says, it's an emotional thing. And we should allow our emotion to be part of our discourse. But crucially, our control and our knowledge of the...
How many pages did you read?
Our control of the narrative. Not Preston, your microphone is up.
Yeah, I have muted them.
Our control of the narrative will address the issue of our mental slavery. And we must say that to each other. We should not allow the oppressors and their descendants to control our narrative. And I believe that that is an important part of our self-learning and our self-repair. Once again, thank you, Elder Sizwe, Ifo, all those who are involved in preparing this. And I'm very impressed to see Sister Lynn, Aman Daniels, and all those from the UK, and all those in Canada that we will get to meet and get to know as we go along.
Yeah, okay, if you just want to hold it 1 minute, folks, for those of you who don't know, on Sundays, every Sunday, Brother Glenroy and the Global African network has a podcast, webcast that goes all afternoon. So if you, depending on where you are in the world, if you tune in, say at 1 p.m., you can be on talking to others of like mind all over the world. You can be on for 4, 5, 6 hours. So I just want to mention that. And Brother Glenn, just hold one more point, is that you can all see the logo, or that's just to the right shoulder of Glenroy. Yeah, it says repairing the damage, redressing the injustice. That's very well chosen. In our organization, the African Heritage Universe, we used to say, and we still do, some things they owe us, and some things we owe ourselves. Okay? Now, and I would say some things we owe ourselves connects with repairing the damage. They can't give us our self-esteem. They can't give us our humanity and all the things that go into that. We have to do it ourselves. But yes, they do us something big time. They owe us something big time for the trillions and trillions that they have gained in wealth, in their prosperity and so on, from millions of our ancestors, their labor, their sweat, their lives to make the West, Europe, rich compared to us. So yes, that's slogan of that really captures it: repairing the damage, redressing the injustice. And some of us specialize or try to specialize in repairing the injustice or redressing the injustice, but it doesn't mean that we're working at cross purposes to those that are trying to do what they can to repair the damage. We have to be conscious of that, and we can do both at once. I'm sorry to hold you up, Brother Glenroy, but I thought that was an important point to drive home. Thank you again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I think we have Sis Marcia and then George after that. So once Sis Marcia finishes, George, you can just go ahead.
Greetings. Sorry, I'm not feeling that well today, so I won't turn on my camera. But I just wanted to remind people what Dr. Yusuf Ben O'Connor said. He said that the worst part of our enslavement is not the shackle on the hands, it's the shackle on the mind. So for us to start getting rid of mental slavery, we have to learn everything that we have learned. Give thanks. Thank you.
Yeah, good afternoon, good morning to everyone. My name is George. And I'm just wondering whether in these fora we tend to talk just to ourselves alone. And I was thinking that perhaps some of what we say should be directed to those not in the diaspora. Because over the recent past, we see hundreds of thousands of young African men trying to get to Europe across dangerous territory some of which are no different from the territories over which the Atlantic and the Saharan slavery occurred. The question that I'd like to pose, not necessarily to this group, but to a wider group, and that is, what are the current African leaders doing, and what are they aware of that makes it necessary for the young men to put themselves in such danger and to go headlong into some form of slavery? I think that's a question of mental slavery on the part of our current leaders, and perhaps they should be made aware of the circumstances in which they hold themselves. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that point.
I'll defer. I'll defer to anybody else that has a comment, but I want to share something with you that happened to me as a child. I was born in Africa, and don't ask me which part, because as one of my reaction to the Berlin Conference towards the end of the 19th century, I have stopped identifying the divisions in Africa that were meant for our demise. So I was born in Africa, and before I was in high school, before the country was so-called independent, got their independence, so-called. And one of the things that I was taught in high school was, I think, Ifo mentioned Timbuktu. I was a pretty decent student. They say I had it, although I didn't always apply myself. But so taking an exam, the answer to the question, what is Timbuktu? The answer to the question, it's some place in the middle of nowhere. Some place in the middle of nowhere. Now, and of course, you put that down, you score full marks, 100%. It was not until my final year at McMaster University, many years later, that I discovered the position, the geographical location and meaning of Timbuktu. And it so happens that Timbuktu is within half a day's drive from my house in Africa. If that's not mental slavery, I don't know what is. And I'll also say this, when I met Charisma Grace, who was one of the 3 people that started this event, she's from Jamaica, and we're talking casually, and somehow the word Timbuktu came up, and you'll never guess what she said. Some place in the middle of nowhere. So I said, hey, where do you get that? Oh, he said, that's what we're taught in school. So Jamaica, Africa, where else was this type of conditioning going on for years and years and years? I yield to others that might have a contribution to make.
I wondered if I could respond to George. I think it is that raised a very good point about the journey of our young people across the Mediterranean and indeed the so-called English Channel, because people are dying on these journeys. But I was on the radio program this morning, Galaxy Radio here in the UK, and we were talking about this attempt to romanticize the African people coming to the UK. And of course, it comes with all the baggage about that people had come to the mother country, that they had come to rebuild Britain, and so on. But the reality is that they were coming from the British colony, and the British had decimated those countries and made it almost impossible to earn a living, much less improve your status. And we have to be very clear. People made that journey back to the UK, back to the racism that many of them had experienced when they had come to this country to help fight the Second European War. And they keep calling it a world war, but the reality is that it was a war among themselves, and they tried to drag in the rest of the global community. But many of our fathers and mothers were here during that period of time, helping during that war. So they knew the flavor of dishonesty and racism. You know, American GIs were being brutalized because they were Black. So we had lots of history in this country of racism. It didn't just start with so-called Windrush. But this is the picture they want to paint. And even now, today, they were painting a situation about, not today, but in the last few months, about 75 years of Windrush and people being here. Of course, those are true and historic facts, but it pretends that as if people have just arrived. We have been here as far back as the 1600s. Where they deported people and stole their property. So Africans are trying to come back to Europe to regain their stolen wealth. And they're having to do that because of the devastation in the countries that they are currently located in. You know, so I look at the journey that people took during the 40s and 50s to come to Europe and the UK. And whilst it's not as horrendous as those that are currently going on, the reality is that nobody wanted to do those journeys. They had to do that journey in order to change their situation. And we have a fight on our hand. I understand that, you know, Sudanese refugees in Canada are also being treated appallingly. Sudanese refugees here and other refugees here are being treated appallingly. And even in the midst of this clear contradiction of how people from the Ukraine are being taught, African people, in my opinion, are not rising to the occasion and recognize that we are still the victim of racism. And it goes along, I think, with the idea or the concern about mental enslavement. So it's a very good point, George. We have to look more into this and what we can do to at least educate people what they can expect in Europe. Because it's not just that they're being killed on the high seas, they're being killed when they are in these countries, in both the ways they're treated and actually physically. Thank you.
Brother Glenroy, are you still speaking? You seem unmuted.
No, I've finished. I'm sorry.
Okay,
Probably ended a bit abruptly. Sorry about that.
Thanks. Yes. what I wanted to say in response to the question about the so-called African leaders, when I say so-called, because as Uncle Sizwe has shared with us, we are talking about things that were designed in a Berlin conference without any Africans there. They created this weird artificial boundaries in order to figure out ways to efficiently steal from. Right?
You can't have buns. It's fine. We got one call.
And not Preston,
Not
please mute
Preston.
your mic.
Oh.
Okay, thank you. In order for us to decolonize ourselves and to remove the mental slavery, I think we have to collectively reject, out of respect for our ancestors, we need to reject all those colonial boundaries, because those are fundamentally disrespectful to us, to our humanity. You know, somebody cannot come into your house and then decide that your brother is no longer your brother. That is not acceptable. So we collectively are family, and we've had nations that still exist. My people, the Isoko, I believe, were part of the Benin Kingdom. We're sisters to the Oyo Kingdom. There are other kingdoms that are available that have their own boundaries. Some of them are fluid, some of them are not. But if we really want to talk about mental slavery, why are we accepting the boundaries that these colonial global criminals created and pretending like the systems that they set in place would not oppress us? The only times that they allow a leader, a so-called leader of Africa, to stay is if the leader is in line with everybody except for Africans. Because whenever anybody is in line with Africans, they execute the person or they arrange a coup.
Yeah.
So the nation states in itself are part of the problem. Capitalism itself is part of the problem. Scientific socialism is the solution, as our great leader Nkrumah has taught us. And also we need to respect our ancestors. Deeply respect our ancestors. It means that we need to reclaim the roots of the things that they have stolen from us. Like we have Africans who are Christians praying to a white Jesus, even though the actual religion that became Christianity has its origins in Africa, right? So why are we praying to a white Jesus? And then if you look at the Bible itself, it talks about the most respected person in the history of that tradition is someone from West Africa. There's actually a Yoruba man. I forget his name right now. So we need to really remember our ancestors and remember our truth, because they have lied to us in so many ways. By telling us that Mango Park invented this, or even telling people that our names are not good enough for God. So you have people that decide that, oh, I converted to one religion, so I need to change my name to the language of the other people. Like, that makes no sense. So I think collectively we have lost a lot. I am not a Christian, but I was brought up among Christians. And there's a saying in the so-called Christian Bible. They say that if your left hand causes you to sin, you should cut it off. So I respectfully want to ask people collectively, why are we continuing to show reverence for evil things, genocidal things, like the national boundaries, like the Queen or King of England? Those are people that have, their wealth has come from murdering millions and millions of people and enslaving millions and millions of people.
Yeah,
So,
if I might interrupt, it's now 1 p.m. and we have to tilt immediately to the second half of the program. I see that Camille Yarbrough is in the house, so to speak, and it's a very good, I guess, transition to what we're going to do in the second half, because she represents one of those that have been repairing the damage, that have been on the job doing what we have to do, the things that we owe ourselves. Someone mentioned Molefi Asante. Molefi Asante is also one of those that has been on that job. Somebody mentioned Marcus Garvey. Somebody mentioned John Henry Clark. Somebody mentioned Dr. Ben Jokanan. All those people have been on the job. They've been on the job. They've been tirelessly and faithfully doing their best to repair the damage. And for our guest, Nana Camille Yarbrough, who has spent 60 years plus on the job, we will present to her our premier award, which is the AHUFA Award, the African Heritage Universe Prosperity Award. Okay, so that program begins now. Okay. The program begins now, and we're going over to North Preston, which is the largest of the original Black communities in Canada, and we'll pay a short visit to North Preston. Are you there, North Preston?
Hi. The video
Okay.
camera's not on.
Do your thing.
All right, bear with us here. We just want to make sure everybody can see their beautiful faces. They all can't get in the screen. Come back, baby. What's that mean? Oh, okay.
It's blurry.
How do we change this? Okay, there you go. Okay, you go sit back here. Okay, can you guys hear us okay?
Yep.
Okay, all right. So we're gonna read a book called
Cornrows by Camille Yarbrough.
There's the young people there.
Hi, my name is Sister. My other name is Shirley Ann, but everybody calls me Sister. This is my little brother, Mike.
Okay.
Everybody calls him brother, just like they call me sister. Mama says that the way they do down south where she was born. But you know what? I call brother me too. That's because everything I do, he has to do too. Like when Mama says I can go and play till it gets dark, me too has to say, can I go too? He's such a baby, but we have good times. Now we're going inside to hear one of Mama's great grandma's stories. Every evening we have storytelling time, and you, Mama and great grandma, they tell us some serious dynamite.
Like yesterday when we went, great grandma was fixing Mama's hair in cornrows. That's what great grandmas call those braids. She said that braids got that name because our old folks down south planted rows of corn in the fields. And the rows in the cornfields look like the rows of braids that they fixed in their hair. Mama's hair was looking pretty. So I said, fixing my hair in braids, great grandma. And me too said, fix my hair in braids, great grandma. Then I said, what's the name of your style, Mom? And old me too said, please, Mom, what's the name of yours? Well, Mama and great grandmama started laughing. They were feeling good because every day when Mama comes home from work, they get together and have a lot of fun talking about what's going on at church and remembering and laughing about what they lived down in Alabama. Sometimes we don't even have to ask to go out and play because great grandmama says, you kids go on out and play now.
Hello, can you hear me? I don't think they can hear me. Can you?
Yeah, we can hear you.
First, I want to thank those young people for having the courage at that age to come in front of a television and cameras. I suppose, though, young people are used to it, but I want to thank you for that effort. Before that, I am so pleased to meet all of you. I thank you for the Heritage Award, African Heritage Universe Award. I did not know of the organization, the institution, and so it's new to me, and I'm so honored to have been given an award from you. Listening to you talk, it reminds me of the time when I was part of the Black Studies Department at City College, and Dr. Leonard Jeffries was chair there. But some of the people you spoke about were there frequently. Dr. Ben was there often. Dr. John Henry Clark was there. Dr. Fan Sertima was there. There were so many of those great teachers, those great historians were there. And they spoke of what you're speaking of. In our community, we've been talking about this for a long, long time. And doing cross-fertilization from those from the continent and those from the continent who are in diaspora. We've always been going back and forth, sharing with one another. And so it's good to see you and hear you keeping that story alive, that journey alive, because it's gotten covered up a bit. In some ways we've gone backwards, but in so many ways we've come forward, being an extraordinary people. Y'all hear me talking? You extraordinary men and the women who were there, just that's part of what we have to rekindle in ourselves, the love and the greatness that some people tried to take away from us. Right now in this country, there are those in Florida and California, I think, who are saying, let's close the libraries because we do not want these Africans in diaspora to tell their story, our story. And that's what they've been doing from the beginning of the beginning when they ran into Africa and decided that they were going to take things out of Africa. So now, and we are in a political battle to fight against that, because it's not just some people, it's a lot of them who did not believe that they should have or did lose the Civil War. They have been at war with this country, with the unity, just as you in Africa right now, with the countries, the different, 51 countries? Is that right? Who were trying to fight for unity of all of that. And you're going to do it just as we're going to do it over here. I just want to, Joy, someone spoke of Dr. Joy Yarbrough, I'm messing her name up, but she is talking about what happened to us as a people. And in my book that I've just finished, I'm talking about what happened to us. I'm talking about the damage that you were talking about, that many of our people have been afraid to talk about, as if we're just strong. We're just strong people. We're human. And a great deal of damage has been done to us during that slave trade, after the slave trade, and right now it's still being done. So I wrote a book recently talking about, I was inspired by watching my father when I was a little girl. And I was wondering, why is my father always angry? What happened to him? And so I wrote the book based on the fact that I see something is wrong and I'm going to find out what's wrong and I'm going to stop it. And that's when I started watching our people and talking about ancestors. My great ancestor, my grandmother then, let us stop for a minute and give praise to those people who have brought us this far. Their wisdom we lived on during the time of enslavement, their proverbs that we kept, and we wrote songs using their proverbs as the basic for those songs. The great proverbs you have all over in the motherland. There was, and I just want to read some titles of some books that I have learned. They're my heart, they're my soul. First, one of them, Civilization or Barbarism, Authentic Anthropology. You know, all of you, I'm sure, know that book by Shakante Diop. Read it because it's a seed. Our people here and all over the world need to read this book to find out, yes, we have so much that we came from that has been stolen, still being stolen, but read. Our people have been writing over the centuries. Then we come here, let me read, Slavery by Another Name. What we have to do is say exactly what happened. I had to find out what happened to my father. And I did the research and I found out the damage, psychological damage, physical damage, emotional damage, and we have not faced that. That is something we have to go back and examine exactly what it did to us. And when we do that, we'll learn what a tremendously strong people we are, but not just strong, you know, we're strong sometimes, weak sometimes, but we are a determined people to return to our greatness. Let me see, talking about studying some of the terrible things that happened to us, the damage that was done. One is Deep Like the Rivers. Read that book, Deep Like the Rivers. It's written by an Englishman, I think, Thomas L. Weber. Deep Like the Rivers. Then you'll see what we have survived. We went through things that people don't talk about, and we need to talk about them. I'm just going to name some, and also the importance of our music. When we couldn't do anything else, we had music. We created. In our misery, we created something called the blues. It's a tradition that was in Africa. We changed it a little bit, but it was still telling our story and giving strength to our people. So the music of Africa by, I have to say this name, Nketa, Kwabinda Nketa. It tells of our strength. Our strength is not just in our physical sense. Our strength is in our spiritual strength. That's how we came, how we survived in slavery. That's how we're surviving the damage. That's how we're going to have the energy to overcome the oppression right now in the world and here in America that's trying to rear its ugly head again. We're not going to let that happen. I know you're not going to let it happen in Africa either, on the continent. There's a book by Ivan van Sertima, Black Women in Antiquity. We need to know the role that women played in our history and still playing right now. There is that Dr. Malefe Asante, he just writes and writes. He's a marvelous teacher and lover of our people. His African American History, A Journey of Liberation by Brother Malefe Asante. He was also up at City College so many times. And the good thing about City College, one of the good things, and Dr. Jeffries, we were in the community too. It's right in Harlem. And so we would invite community people to come there into the classroom. Also, we had visitors from Ghana. Some of the priests from Ghana came. And we, in the plaza there, we would have meetings from people from Ghana coming, from people from Nigeria coming. And we in the Black Studies Department went to Africa. I've been there 3 times, to that continent, to Ghana, to Senegal, to Kemet, Ghana a couple of times. And so you at home, you on the continent, or whether you're in London, your heart is still in the motherland. You and we here on the continent share. We still have that spirit. We still have ancestors who we revere and we pour libation to. And I think we should not stop pouring libation. We must start big affairs by, you'll see the Islamic people there doing their religious form. You'll see the Christians there doing their Christian form, and that many people have stopped doing libation. And that is our power. That's our spirit to call on those who have gone before, who brought us this far. Another book by Melefe Asante, African American History. We should all read this. Those who are in the motherland need to read this. And we in this land over here have to read what our people are doing there. I think I mentioned The Breast of the Earth by Kofi Awanur. You know, what happens when we've been starved and we find a good meal like this, the knowledge that's in these books. It's like having, being revived, you understand? When we march in the street, when we go to Congress and say what's on our mind and how we are not gonna take it anymore, and we have moved this country closer to what it should be. Many times we're inspired by knowing, finding out our ancestry, finding out who we are. We know it inside, but it's been taken away outside. We're taking it back right now, just as you are taking the motherland back right now. It's called Africa, but there are other names that it's called. Whatever it's called, it's our homeland. It's our motherland. And we, many, many people here love Africa, love our ancestry. I mean, I have one of my great-grandmothers was 115 when she passed. She had been enslaved and free, but she gathered people while she was enslaved. There are many people who fought against slavery. We don't hear their names and they're passed on, but she helped my father. She's helped so many people, and we must do that, not just in institutions. Those European institutions you mentioned who are teaching us to be European, no. We have to go in those institutions, just like some of the students here went into Columbia University, went into those places and say, you're mistreating, you're misteaching our people. And I've seen on YouTube, I don't recall the brothers' names, but they're doing that. They're telling the young people who have not been so damaged, but they are being raised by damaged Africans. Go to the damaged people. Go to the fact that we, as human beings, are not often always perfect. Sometimes we make mistakes, and we have done that, but we will overcome that. Just like, what is the brother's name who made the filmmaker, father of African film, who made a film called Cheto. I don't know if you know that film. He was put in jail because he made that film. But it was saying,
someone that has already introduced us.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
I just told him the same.
Uncle Sizwe, you're not muted.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much for those inspiring words. Those inspiring words. I never tire of listening to you and Professor James Small and our elder, Dr. Ben, and so on and so forth. But for now, we have a few people that have some words to say to you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, some words. So we will see if they're on and ask them, the people that are down Kentville way, are you on?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. What do you have to
Hello,
say?
my name is Tia. I live in Camille, Virginia. Little boy with cornrows. Let me see your pretty face. Let me see your handsome smile. Cornrows by Camille Yarbrough, publisher, Karen Kane, New York.
Sorry, I didn't understand what you said.
Hello, Trey. I came from Canada. She consistently champions the beauty and greatness of African people, wherever they are in the world. Her mission is to raise their glory, and in doing so, vibrate the thread of humanity that links us all. Biography, CamilleYarbrough.com.
True. That's what I do. And I will do it until the Creator says come. And sister say, come on, Camille, you work a little bit. But that's what I do, people. I'm so happy to see you and hear you, feel your spirit. Thank you for being true to your ancestry and to the spirit that lives in all of us. I love my people. I love humanity, really, but my people in particular. That's family. And so really remember us over here in Canada. And I was born and raised in the south side of Chicago. And it was difficult, but we still loved, we were taught not to love Africa. And I remember going to the movies and seeing a film in which for once they showed African people, men, women, as they were. And I remember we went to see that film over and over again because we had to learn who we were. So I want to thank you for this presentation, for this award. And the new book is Cornrows. And I wrote it because I was sick and tired of people talking about our hair as if something was wrong with our hair. Because laughing at our hair, they were laughing at us. And that has to stop. And so I went back to my childhood and remembered what it was like when my grandmother and my mother came and talked. And my father came in from work and told our story. There's a spirit that lives inside of us. It keeps growing. It never dies. Sometimes when we're afraid, our spirit trembles. Sometimes when we're hurt and ready to give up, it barely flickers, but it keeps growing. It never dies. I wrote a song some years ago, which was used by a European man named Fatboy Slim. The song I wrote was called Take Your Praise, and he changed it to Praise You. I wrote that song in honor of Black men because it was during the time of the movement, and so many of our men were being shot down and disappearing, and little Emmett Till was being cut up. And so I wrote it and I said, we've come a long, long way together through the hard times and the good. I have to celebrate you, brother man. I said baby, but I'm saying brother man because that's what I mean. I have to praise you like I should. And it goes on in the song. But you brothers who have stood up, whether it's physical or with words and spirit, I commend you and I thank you. Just know that we have been together, Black men and Black women, African men and African women. It has not always been perfect, but we're gonna make it perfect. Y'all hear me? Do you hear what I'm saying here? Because that's who we are. Again, I thank you. I know other people probably want to speak right now, but I just want to, I'm inspired by you, by what you're saying, and understand we have to tell the truth about the damage that was done to us, but examine the damage. Why is it that we sometimes, there's a writer who wrote something about those who enslaved us built houses and they built a back door. And they said, African people, you go through the back door. And then freedom, we won freedom, Civil War. So many of our men and women were in the Civil War as soldiers and sailors. And then the houses that the white people built and told us to go in the back door were torn down. But because the damage done to us, some of us will build a back door, not the front door. So we have to let everybody know that we will build our own doors and it will be the front door when we come in. We're not going to the back doors of this world. We're going to come to save one another, whether we're on a ship, a boat trying to get to England, trying to get to Europe. Something has to happen in our minds that no, we have to stay in Africa and make Africa what it's supposed to be. We are a brilliant people, and we have to show the world that we are brilliant. Not just athletes. You know, we have great athletes, but we have great scientists also. And over here, when I'm at City College mostly, and at Temple University, with Asante, we spoke of those things, the greatness of our people, and there's proof. So let's talk about what we have created. Let's talk about that, and not about some just slavery, but we quit slavery. Our men made Abraham Lincoln decide, because the North was losing the Civil War, you see, and Frederick Douglass and others were saying, Lincoln, let our men fight. And he said no for a long time. But after they found out that the North was losing the Civil War, then they said, okay, we'll let the Black men come in and soldiers and fight. And this is why my grandmother used to say, our boys won the war. Our boys whooped slavery. And that's what we have to do around the world. Anything negative, whoop it, get it out of the way. Get it out of the way with our brilliance and with integrity, with love, and pour you some libation, people, before you do anything. Go back to that. That's our power. Have I said enough?
Thank you again. Thank you again. I can listen to you forever. And I will not stop addressing you as Nana Camille Yarbrough. It happens from time to time. Somebody, maybe a person of African descent from this part of the world goes to Africa, maybe a professor of something, or maybe a leader of an organization goes to Africa, and the person is recognized with a distinction, an emblem, if you like, of distinction in Africa. And of course, you were recognized by the Ashanti
and the Ga.
in Ghana and the Ga, okay? But then what happens when they come back, okay? They invariably, they put that award, the insignia or whatever, in their hip, in their back pocket, and will only address themselves as Dr. So-and-so. Okay, so I never tire of referring to you as Nana, because you were recognized by two different ethnic groups at two different times for that reason. Anyway, there are a couple of people that have some words to say to you. So just sit back and we'll get them on.
Thank you.
Okay, so Kiera Shelby. Kiera, are you there? Kentville.
Hi. Yeah, I'm Kiera. I'm from Kentville, Nova Scotia. And I just have a quote here from Camille that I'm going to read. It's, we have ironed it on iron boards. We have pressed it with pressing combs, choked it with Dixie peach, royal crown, and lard. Caused premature balding by brushing it too hard. We have hidden it under do-rags, head rags, and wigs. Marcelled it, cornrowed it, finger weaved it, glued it, relaxed it, and blown it out. What is all this activity about? Our hair has a mind of its own. It just keeps going home no matter what.
It's true. It's true. So let's honor our hairs.
Thank you.
It just keeps going right on back home.
Yeah. Okay.
I also have the next quote that I'm going to read. It's, as the hook on Fatboy Slim's 1990 Big Beat hits praise you, it doesn't take much digging to confirm that Yarbrough is what makes the track remarkable. The sample is taken from her 1975 album, The Iron Pot Cooker, which earned Yarbrough the title of Hip Hop Foremother. And I am very privileged to be able to have just heard that story from you personally. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we have sent our work all over the world, and it has helped the world. Some people said that some of the English people, they get high, the young people, and they dance to praise you. But when the high is gone, when the dance is gone, the concept of praise will be there. And that's what I wanted. Fatboy Slim did me a favor when he sampled that song. I want to praise you like I should. And I do praise you. Thank you, Sister Clark.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else? If not, I want.
Is anyone else that has some words for Camille Yarbrough?
Yeah. Hi, my name is Trey. I live in Camille, Nova Scotia. You have to be real, responsible, and love your people. And then Camille Yarbrough interviews us under discovery.
I heard some of that. I think it's a quote about loving our people. Yes, I do. I can't help myself. I just love us. And there's another thing you spoke of, Dr. Small. We were up at City College at the same time working. He's been there for a long time. But one day I was coming home and Dr. John Henry Clark lived across the street from me. And as I was coming there, I saw a group of people outside of Dr. Clark's house, found out that he was the Ghanaian people, the Ga people in this case, came to America, came to New York, and they wanted to reach out to the African American community. And so they would set up organizations and they would bring some of our leadership to them. So they gave Dr. Clark the honor of being installed in their particular Ga tradition. And as I was walking past the house, I went in and that ceremony was happening with the food being passed on to the young people. And then later on that night, I received a call from Professor Small saying the God people there had asked me if I would be Queen Mother to their Dr. John Henry Clark. So there was a ritual and a celebration about that. And I take that as a great honor and respect Dr. Clark. He was a great teacher. He's still in my heart. And I went on with that God group. And I witnessed many at the time when they celebrated hooting at slavery, hooting at hunger. I've forgotten the name of the day, but you go and celebrate, and at those times, celebrating with them, and during the procession in which time we ate the food and then we fed the earth, because that earth and all of us have a journey that we have passed. And those rituals that I celebrated with the God family here has been very important to me in solidifying my love for the traditions and the people of Africa.
Wow.
I'd like to share a quote from Our Times Press.
Oh, yeah.
It says, her shoulders are the strong support for such artists as Lauryn Hill, Erykah Badu, and others. Although exceedingly complimentary, the appellations, comparisons, and strings of adjectives miss by a mile the monument that is Camille Yarbrough. Miss Yarbrough is beyond category, unquote. I would just like to close and say that God is truly apparent, that he's truly blessed your life, because you have certainly blessed ours. Thank you.
Very nice. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. As I said, our music has saved us. Our creativity has saved us. And we have been gifted with many great artists who loved our people and who worked in that line. I think because of our gift and our danger to people who want to be bullies and want to take over everything, our music has also been under attack. And although it started, the latest creation, hip hop, it started as something that was very helpful, very supportive of our community. They talked about what was happening in our community and respect, but it was a threat to a system that wants to distort our story. And so they brought in an element of negativity, of gangster rap. You understand? That was not the true meaning, a true pose of hip hop. But then you heard performers on the stage using foul language and dealing with women as just almost street women. And that was not us. Right now, there's some who are trying to go back to an art of respect, which is what we brought from our tradition. And we're going to make that too. There are other people who know what we have done in the past. But we do use music, as you know, always to tell the story, the oral effet, in Nigeria, the person who speaks the truth, who brings the word.
We know who we are. Don't let anybody trivialize us. We are the mother.
Who is that?
Okay, Gail, are you on? I think.
There you are.
Okay, there I am.
Okay, go ahead, Gail. The floor is yours.
Oh, I didn't want to say anything. I was just reading, so I was looking at something. I hit the unmute by accident.
But you were reading something beautiful, so you might as well just share it with us.
I was just practicing what I was gonna read.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Your practice time is over. now it's the real thing. Go ahead.
Are we at me? Because I just joined.
Oh, okay. We'll get back to you then. Do you want me to do that?
Yes, please.
Okay, go ahead. We'll get back to you.
What about Dennis?
Okay, we'll get back to you. So what about Tia Sampson? Tia Sampson.
It's me actually.
Oh, that's you.
Hi, my name is Trey. I live in Nova Scotia.
What about Tia? Is Tia not here?
Yeah. By the way, Tia, your audio is very choppy. Do you mind just turning off your video temporarily? That might make that. I think you have a bad connection, and that might improve the quality. Try that.
Okay. So I have number 8. My name's Trey. I'm a brother. Find your strengths and strengthen them. Find your weaknesses and weaken them. NSN, Campbell Yarbrough, Interview, Urban Vision Media.
Thank you. Thank you. That's something working on ourselves. If we have strong points, make them stronger, use them. And if we have weaknesses, get rid of the weaknesses, weaken our weaknesses. And we all have them, so we all have work to do. Mr. Mbeba, what's on your mind, brother?
Hi, thank you so much for everything that you have shared. And thank you for the wisdom and knowledge that you have bestowed upon us. I come from the teaching of Mother. You're everything to us. And without you, we wouldn't be where we are. So I just want to share that knowledge. And it's what keeps me going every day, knowing that everything that I've ever learned has come from my mother. Collectively. So that's the feminine energy. That's everything. All the strength that I have as a man, as I stand here before you today, it comes from my mom. It comes from my mother. And all the teachings I've ever come across come from my mother. And as an African male, that's what I grew up being taught. So even I'm a drummer. So even as a drummer, all the drumming, all the rhythms come from my mother. Everything comes from my mother. And I want to touch a little bit on the music, but I also want to touch a little bit on the heart, because as African diaspora, so I come from Tanzania, and I live here in Nova Scotia. No person knows about me because we did something with Nelson Winder. So I touch you there. But going back to the heart, I want to say that yes, we have a lot of trauma that has been, that we have, whether it was passed through DNA or recent. With that trauma, it completely blocks our hearts as individuals, as Africans, as everything that we are. Aspects of our hearts are maimed, and we're unable to unlock those pieces. And a lot of it is rooted in violence and pain and the loss of somebody very close to us. One thing I want to kind of distract you with is that when you look at African generations, when the males or the leaders of the generation get to about 40, something tragic happens. I have been studying this for a little bit, and it happens in all African diasporas all across the world. And it's not by chance. It's not like, oh, you know, something happened. It's by design just as much. A way to heal that is to understand that it is happening, and also to recognize and sit in it and have the love that we are currently sharing amongst each other. I also want to speak a little bit about the music, in saying that our ancestors have always been with us in our music. And as of the recent times, I'm noticing more and more of our people, we are becoming closer with each other. We are starting to heal each other. We are changing the times with one another. I am seeing that, and I am living that. And so for as long as I'm carrying that within myself, then I can heal others with it. I can then find enough strength to not see adversity or animosity amongst each other. And with going back to the music a little bit here, if you're listening to current like Afro pop, or it's also going to the US a little bit more, is you will notice that there are chants. A lot of the music now has a lot of chants. It invokes the spirit. It honestly, what it does is it makes you feel like you're not alone. It honestly, and if you pay careful attention, you will start to realize there's a movement that is happening. It unites you with your brothers and sisters really quickly. And I think I will end it there. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for all of that. You've covered a lot and done it well. There's one thing we're leaving out when we talk about the music, I think. Because music is power, because music communicates on a deeper level than merely making a show. If you're not in control of your presentation, you lose a lot of power. The word must be telling our story. What we have been hypnotized by a lot of times is rhythm. And it's a misuse of rhythm. It's not the real rhythm, but it's a play on our rhythm. Sometimes it's just not in the same energy level as we created, really. And unless we have the words which speak truth to power, as exist in a lot of African tradition, they will talk about, we share things over here which we brought from Africa. Putting your business in the street is one of them. Do you ever heard of that? Telling you put people's business, that is, as I did some research, there are places now, jumped out of my head just now, where if you were of a certain age group and you went through rituals according to your age group, and later on as you grew up, some of those people in that age group began to do something which was antisocial. It was the age group that called them out on it. First they said, what are you doing to them? What are you doing? You're hurting our community. If they did not listen at that time, this is in the going back some time, that age group, it was their responsibility to go to that people, those people in their house, go through the street singing what those people were doing wrong, bringing it to the attention of everybody. And then when they get there in front of those people's house, they'll tell them what they're doing wrong. But that tradition existed here. We called it putting your business in the street. And we used to sing about that. So we have to, again, let people know that there is a value system that you share. And when it's destructive, when people start to do things which are destructive to that value system, then they have to be told about it. And right now we're hiding a lot of things that a lot of us are doing, which are not very good, but we don't talk about it. We don't put the business in the street. You don't hear blues singers anymore. It was mainly the blues singers and certain church people who were doing that musically. When hip hop was created, it was created by genius young Black people, genius But it was too powerful for the system that wants to control. And so the system had to destroy it by bringing in these people from, what is it called? The kind of life of sexual life. Everything had to be about sex. The women, if you see our women now, they're showing all their body coming up, and they're given those clothes. When they go on the show, they're given those clothes to wear. And then we're becoming like we're always on sale. When you come up, you're supposed to bring your spirit with you, and that's what's supposed to greet people. You can be dressed beautifully, but you don't have to dress as if you were on sale. And that is what's placed on us, on our music, by those who do not want us to be successful, who want us to go backwards, to want us to live up to what they say about us. And it is not true. So we have to, you, especially young right now, that's your position, to say, okay, we see this is not good for us, and it's going back to something that enslavement put on us, and we're not going to take it. We're going to take it back. Listen to some of the people, some of those great singers that we had before, and they're singing love songs. They're not calling somebody's baby mama something. They're not calling all those names something. They are talking about dignity. It doesn't have to be dull. All of those singers are great singers who sang, they were not dull, and they knew how to go on stage. They came on stage respectfully. They were dancing. Nobody could beat us as dancers. Now everybody's imitating our dancers, and we're disappearing. You understand what I'm saying? So hold your position. We've lost some position because the system, music business says, we want you to look like this. We don't want you to, they were scared. They were scared because the youth during the movement changed the fight for integration, not integration, but for freedom. Those, I think it was 4 students down at one of our colleges went and sat in Walgreens, drugstore, all kind of, we were not served in those places. We could not do anything. We could not sit and eat anything. And those young students went and sat in and changed the whole system, because other students in college came in and sat in and said, no, 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 no. This is America, and you're going to act like what America says you're supposed to be like. And so it changed everything. Them and the Southerners, the Southern older people, the institutional people. First, the Black Panthers were in the South. There were some old people who started that organization, and then it was changed and it went up to the young. But we have to, it's the way you carry yourself. It's how you will show your dignity, you will show your wealth without having to say anything. When you enter a room, you enter it with your spiritual self. You're not posing and stuff. Just have control of who you are. Respect, and these people are trying to get us out of the school books because they're scared. They're scared that the world again will see what they did to people of African ancestry. And they think that their children will be ashamed of them. Well, their children should be ashamed of what they did, but we can change that. That's done. Now, all these people who are racist stuff, they have to grow up. They have to realize we're not going to take that anymore. You know, that time is over. And so our young people, you can't hide things from young white kids when they are free of mind and they are in a loving human state of mind. Share stuff. Yeah, we made some mistakes, but you all made a terrible mistake by what you did. I'm talking to Europeans now, what you did in Africa. We have not turned on America. You understand that? We have brought so much to this country and to the world, but we did not say, look at what you did to us, so we're going to do it to you. We didn't do that. We're just making things better because we are genius people and it's in us to do that. So take pride in being who you are. I know I can see it in your face, Brother Mbeba. I see it, and I see it also in Ifo Akede at the bottom right now. Beautiful faces, beautiful people. I love you so much. And you love yourself, but it's hard sometimes to let people know how much you love yourself. Let them know it. Let them know it. Because they know it anyhow. They just don't want you to say it. But we have to say it now. That's what we did. That's what we did. And we're going to do it again. All the people, Africa is, oh gosh, the pressure on Africa now is so awful because of the continent, the wealth of that continent and the wealth of the spiritual people. And the world is over there just taking Chinese, Japanese, everybody's over there taken out of Africa. Why? Because Africa is so rich and they've turned many of us against Africa. So our fight is to recover. Reparation starts at home. Reparation starts right here first. We have to repair ourselves as we try to repair our nation, our people. That's where it starts. So I've said so much, there's so much to say. It's an honor to be here sharing the space with you and the love with you and the energy with you. And there are many songs we sang during the movement and afterward. Ain't no stopping us now. We're on the move, okay? There's never any stopping us now. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. I see we have Jaden. Jaden?
Hi, my name is Jaden, and I live in Kentville, Nova Scotia, Canada. And I want to say one of these quotes. It ain't easy, it ain't always pleasing, but it's absolutely necessary to tell our story. And then Camille, Yarbrough, interview Urban Vision Media. And I got one more. You have to be real, responsible, and love your people. Interview, source under discovery.
Thank you, Jaden, for that.
And I have the next one that I have to read. Hello, my name is Tia. I live in Kentville, Nova Scotia, Canada. If you are among the many thousand who are wearing their hair in the style we call cornrows, then as quiet as it is kept, you are carrying on an African tradition that is more than 5,000 years old. The braided hairstyle that we call cornrows dates back at least as far as 35,000 BC. But more important to note is that cornrows is more than fashion. It is also a symbol. Let me explain what I mean. Centuries ago, our African ancestors developed hair braiding, including the different styles, and used other things, social status, age group, and religious affiliation. They incorporated the braided hair into their ceremonies, festivals, rites, and rituals. And in that way, symbolic braided hairstyles were passed on from generation to generation and established as part of the African cultural support system. Cornrows, where have you been? I've been undercover, but I'm back again. Cornrows, A Spirit Force, CamilleYarbrough.com.
Thank you. Yes, it is more than fashion, it's tradition. And when we started wearing our hair, stopped being ashamed of our hair here because of damage from enslavement. And we started, I was working in show business, but we forced them because of our will to say we deserve this, should not be shut out of soap operas. And so all of us, we were auditioning for soap operas, right? And we had froze. We came in with braids and froze. And this was a big change for them. They said, we don't know. They had meetings and everything. Should we let these African people, they didn't call us African, they called us Negroes and everything else. Should we let them in on our soap operas? And they had to, because the people were in the streets and we'll say, no, we will be treated like everybody else. So I auditioned, me and a lot of other people auditioned. And it was a thing. We forced them to see our reality. They didn't want us in there, but there we were in our froze. Some had the braids and they were not ready for us. We were ready. But when we got in there, they didn't have anybody to make us up. They didn't have anybody to do our hair. They didn't have anybody to put clothes. But we were there, and we were there because we forced them by our will to accept our people and stop disrespecting us. This is a picture, I don't know how well you can see it, of me with my fro when I went into the soap opera. Soap opera was Search for Tomorrow. and got in there. I didn't want to stay because they were not telling our story. They were telling everything else but our story. So I said, I'll audition for something else and go there. But, our story is powerful. When we stopped wearing our froze, they said, oh, we still have them. We still have them. So we'll have them wear wigs. And today, a lot of sisters are wearing wigs and stuff. Okay, that's all right. But don't do it to the disrespect of our natural hair. Because when they see us, we can make more progress as who we are. That's our job. That's
I think this is a good point for me to step in. Okay. My name is George Trexin Roberts. Looking at the quotation here where you ask, do we know who we are? Don't let anybody trivialize us.
Right.
We are the mothers and fathers of humankind.
Right.
We ought to walk that way.
Yep.
When you talk, you have to have done the research to back up what you say.
Right.
Don't say anything unless you have researched it 4 times.
That's
going
Dr.
through sources.
Dr. Ben.
The original source, and then another source, and then another source. And Camille Yarbrough, Libation Lesson at the celebration of the life of Dr. Ben Buchanan, April 10, 2015.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Ben opened our eyes to the fact that our story is not only about slavery, it goes back to Kemet. It goes back to all of those ancient countries. It goes back to Ethiopia. It goes back to all of the continent of Africa, even in what is called now South Africa. Everybody. And so, yes, you walk with it. Thank you, brother, for reading that. Mary McLeod Bethune said that her mother, who was on the continent of Africa, told her, walk with your spirit, walk with who you are. And when I see our people and they give a little bit, they give a little, no. That's where I come up and I say something. It's not easy. It's not always pleasing. Sometimes it's scary, but it's absolutely necessary to be who we are. That's power, people. That's power. When those young students sat in that Walgreens and said, we're not moving and you're going to feed us properly, that was power. Whole country changed. When we walked in, I walked with Reverend Sharpton in Bensonhurst after they had killed a young brother out there. When we walked in, they were nervous, they were scared, and they called us names, but we were there and we changed that neighborhood, and we're gonna continue, just like in Africa, y'all gonna start doing it too, in a different way. You have to take a different approach. You all make it up, it comes from you, just like what happened here comes from us, but it's actually from our ancestors who are talking to us. My ancestors talk to me all the time. I am so blessed. I have been in situations which were dangerous, but it didn't get me. The danger didn't get me, and it was ancestors. It wasn't me. What was that, 120 pounds? Sister with a big fro. And it changed, we changed the world as you are changing the world. With this meeting, with your organization, Universe Prosperity, African Heritage. They told us we had no ancestry. They told us we had nobody who was gonna, we had to worship or we had to look up to. And it took years of that. When people changed us, it was through terror. You understand? This was a terror state we lived in. And we have to go to those wounds and talk about it. You have to say, yes, my father he was sexually assaulted. He told us that in his 80th year, he was in his 80th year. As part of that racism, that's what happened to him and a lot of other men. It happened to women. And we have to get rid of that. We have to say, yes, that happened. And that energy has to flow out of us. Let's not keep all of the hurt in. When sometimes we attack one another, it's not that we don't like each other, but that energy has been built up in us. James Brown film, if you saw the James Brown film, go see it. And at one point, when he was a little child, his mother and he used to run in the forest, they were having a good time together. But when the father came, that that energy came up, which was beaten into us. We're not supposed to like each other, you know? We're not supposed to do that. And so they fought. And the only place they reached out to each other was sexually. They fought each other, anything else, but they had sex. Then they fought again. And that's the psychological state that was created in our slavery. And that is something we have to get rid of now, because some of us don't want to see each other, don't want to give respect to each other. That came straight out of slavery. And that is what we have to acknowledge. Say, this happened to us. We were terrorized into trauma. And now we have to acknowledge the trauma. Yarbrough, I'm sorry, I'm not saying her, but you know who I'm talking about. She breaks that down, what happened to us. And that we have to say, yeah, it did. It did. I talked to one of my nephews. He said, you shouldn't say that. You shouldn't say that about your father. My father was strong enough to say it about himself, but he waited until his 80s before he said it. And we have hurt inside of us that we need to release. Yes, what in slavery did to us. We need to go back and say, yeah, but since slavery, what have we done to this country, for the world? Even during the time of our enslavement, there were men and women who stood up and said, we're not going for that. And they helped each other. I have a relative, Prosper Blair was his name, in Ohio. He would help the runaways go get out of the reach of those who were sent out to recapture the runaways. They found out what he was doing. He had to leave Ohio. They took his land, they took his money, they took his home, but he got out just in time so that they didn't get him and put him in jail or kill him. But we've always had people who were working for us. Never forget that and give praise to them. And to what's-McCall Hills, the brother who was slaughtered in Mississippi. They just have a till, till. And his mother, thank God that she said, no, I want y'all to see this. So she had that open coffin. That changed the world. That coffin, when people saw what they had done, they said, oh no. And that gave more energy to the movement over here, and I think around the world, because she said, no, you did this, you see the damage you have done to our people, but still you're not gonna stop us. And I have to keep myself from cursing here because I'm really sick and tired of them. But we have to be in control of ourselves and master that. Yeah. We are the masters of ourselves, people. We've been taken down to the depths, but we came up and we're still coming up. And I saw a film the other day, video, that some sisters from America had gone to Cape Coast Castle, dungeons, down in the dungeons, and went over there twerking, shaking their behinds in their, this laughter. They thought it was funny. And that's what I said before, those who call themselves masters built houses that had back doors for us. We burned the houses down during the Civil War, but some of us were so damaged that we will make back doors. And those women who went over there and twerking and carrying on and where slaves were taken, they were building a back door because their minds have not grown. They've been damaged. So I've been with you. I'm going to stop talking right now, but it is such an honor to look in your faces and say thank you for your honor to me, your respect for me, because it goes to a lot of people, all those people who in the books that I mentioned. It goes to Rosalind Jeffries, Dr. Leonard Jeffries. It goes to so many people in the community whose names you don't even know, but who did marvelous things for us.
Well, you're most welcome. You're most welcome, Na Camille. The inscription on your kente stole says Ahupa 2023. Ahupa stands for African Heritage Universe Prosperity Award. Prosperity Award. We never use the term development.
I hear you. Okay.
Development has a different meaning. Prosperity has its own meaning. When we were put on this earth by our Creator, the prescription or the instruction wasn't go out there and develop. No. It's go and prosper. Use your talents, use your energy, use your resources, and prosper. Okay. This question of we ought to develop, and there are others that have developed and know how to do it, and all we have to do is follow them.
Work together.
Is, well, we don't subscribe to that.
What?
But we don't subscribe to that notion.
Which notion?
The notion of some people are developed, others are underdeveloped, and all we need to do is to follow those that are developed, follow what they're doing, and we will make it.
It's more than that, I think.
Yeah, okay, so as I said, it's coming to an end. I don't want to prolong it, but I think Gail, you have something to say to
I was wondering if we could do a small shift, just because our master drummer has another engagement, and so I was wondering if he could come in now, and then Gail's question after, and then we'll close with that.
But he comes in, he closes the show. So
so Brother Amadou, how long can you wait? You can unmute. I see you're there.
Does he have 5 minutes?
I will find out. Well, Gail, go ahead. I'll find out from him.
Okay, I'm Gail Price. I'm from Toronto, Canada, and I'm honored to be here. I have this, in 1970, I stood on the stage at the end of my performance in James Welding's Johnson's Trumpets of the Lord, Immobile, watching through teary eyes this baptism, this crossing over of my people from shadow into substantial black, the hollow gray places having been filled by their knowledge and acceptance of themselves. They waved their arms, shook their heads, called out in religious salute, rocked, hummed, and sat in loving silence. From Today I Feel Like a Somebody by Camille Yarbrough in New York Times, April 1971.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Gail. Okay, well, thank you, Gail. We are now at the we're now at the end of the program, and usually what we do, we send a message to our ancestors, to all those that are alive today, and also to those that are to come. We send a message to them, telling them what we have done. And we do it in the authentic African way. And for that, we're honored to have Amadou Kienou. Amadou Kienou is a griot. His father, Baba Kienou, was a griot. His great-grandparents and his great-grandparents and his great-great-great-grandparents. His continues the tradition, and if Amadou is ready, please tell them what we've done.
We hear you, brother, but we don't see you.
That's all. That's all. That's all. That's all. Ani sogoma. Ani sogoma. Kunu temena. Ambibira. Sinibala bolo. Debusenu. Demusenu. Ayi cɛkɔrɔba o lamɛn ni kunu tɛmɛna an bɛ bi de la sini b'a la bolo ala Afotuguni. Aniche, anibara, kunu temena, ambibila. Nato, inga sambarata, katafuala. Nato, inga kurisita, katafuala. Nato, inga sambarata, katafuala. Nato, inga kurisita, katafuala. Nato, inga sambarata, katafuala. Nato, inga kurisita, katafuala. Nato, inga sambarata, katafuala. Nato, inga sambarata, katafuala. Nato, inga kurisita, katafuala. Nato, Thank you.
Yamana.
Thank
you so
you.
much.
Thank you. So the message has gone out, what we've done. And Camille Yarbrough, take your praise.
Back to you.
Thank you.
Take your praise.
Yeah.
And I saw this when I went to Ghana, and the Santa Hene was being taken at the ground Durba, and I saw him do this to this side of the crowd, and he did this to this side of the crowd, and he hugged them. Okay, so I send you that embrace as it comes from.
Okay, well, we'll stay in touch.
Yes, please.
And thank you everyone for tuning in and for being a part of this. And we'll see you this time next year. It's always the same time. It's the Saturday closest to the birthday of Marcus Garvey. So it's always the same time. Okay, so bye everyone. Thanks again, and
Thanks for having us. Thank you. Before everybody leaves, just a reminder: every Sunday at it's 12 o'clock Atlantic time. It is 4 o'clock UK time. It is, I don't know what time it is. I don't know. Anyway, there is the Global African Congress. And a few other groups sponsor an international solidarity discussion. And we talk about issues that are affecting African peoples all across the globe. And we also get reports from African peoples from all across the globe. And we share, we support each other, we have good laughs. Some of us cook multiple meals while the event is happening. So feel free to join us. I will be posting the link in the Zoom in a second. So please just hold on. I'm gonna stop the recording now, but recording stopped. I will be posting the link very shortly. So please just hold on so I can send that to everyone. And then you can get the chance to be able to join us. And you can reach out to Glenn Roy for more details on that. Just a moment, please. Any last words of wisdom, Uncle Sizwe, while I grab the link?
No, I think I would be pretentious if I tried to follow Camille Yarbrough. So I'll just leave it at that. She's given us enough to think about.
Yarama.
Bye.
Done well.
Yes, sure.
Okay, I have found the link. Give me 2 seconds, and I will have that posted in the chat for everybody to have. Where is my? I have a habit of having 3 million windows open. Okay, I've eventually found it. 1 second here. Let's just make sure. Oops. Patience is a beautiful thing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That was perfect. I have found the link now, and I shall share it after I copy it.
Thank you.
And it is the same link every Sunday. So feel free to save this somewhere, and then you can, there we go. Oops. Let's send this to everyone, not just, boom. And all right. Thank you, everyone. Some people just joined us a minute ago, which means you missed it. But this event was streamed live to my YouTube and my Twitter. My handle is Afro Healer. I shall post that in the group so you can, I shall post that in the chat here so you can go there and watch what you missed. And also, if you want to share that with other people to check it out, you can watch it there. And if you reluctantly use Twitter, like me, I don't like Elon Musk, but hey. But we help a lot of Africans on Twitter, so I keep using it just in spite of the owner of Twitter, because he's a very hateful human being who made his money from the enslavement of Africans in South Africa. But so those are the two links, to Twitter and also to my YouTube. You can find the replay of today's event. And also I posted the link for the event that's happening tomorrow, UK time. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here. I just realized my video wasn't on. So anyway, thank you. Have a beautiful day. Stay blessed. Always remember the ancestors. Always remember the wise words that were shared to us today by our elders. And let's continue to make Africa and Africans proud. Ashe.
Ashe.
I don't like to kick people out. I've learned that from Elder Glenroy. So I'll stick around a bit while people are slowly saying bye and maybe making connections. Or if you want to save the chat, you can go ahead and do that. I will be here. Thank you once again.
Okay, bye-bye, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye,
Thank you.
everyone. Bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Thank you for, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you all.
Bye. Take care.
Yeah.
Abu,
It's taking so long for the camera to come on. Bye-bye.
And for those who just joined us now, I'm sending the link again so you can watch the replay and watch it from the beginning. Just go to my YouTube page and you will find on my live videos, you will find this will be the last video that was sent there. And we also have recordings of the last 3 years, I believe, that are also on.
Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you, Anthony. Blessings.
See you all later. Bye.
My sister, Oluwase Yabisi Kiloshele, good to see your eye. All of you that are looking for correct clothes, make sure you connect with my Oluwa Yabisi. She's an amazing seamstress. One of the best on the planet. And also my sister. I have 7 people left. Oh, I should stop streaming. 1 second. I just realized